Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and tie master Anne-Marie Young. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And happy Monday to everybody. We are starting the show today with a couple of us having recently experienced a bit of a snowfall. So this is a good day to stay in and do a podcast instead of go out to the cold. Although I have to confess, I did go out to the cold, but not to shovel snow. I did go out to actually do some entertaining type stuff, some fun stuff. But it's better to be inside on a day like this. And and to add on to the beauty of doing an indoor activity, Anne-Marie, we have a guest joining us today who also, by the way, just went through a bit of snow, but also we could just tell right from the initial conversation, she's got the attitude that we like. And when we got that attitude, first of all, the show flies by really fast. The hour is like gone in an instant. And secondly, it's just darn fun. That's what the show's going to be today. It's going to be fun.
Well, I smiled the minute I joined the call, so I think this is going to be brilliant.
So there you go. Yeah, one more vote. I love it. It's perfect. Let's bring her on. Her name is Ilene Marcus, and this is self-description. I'm just going to go with her thing. She says, I'm a powerhouse speaker, author, and innovator. I mean, when somebody says that they're a powerhouse speaker, author, and innovator, that's kind of a setup like, okay, this is going to be like really powerful, like really loud, right? This is going to be energy pouring out of the microphone. So now that I've totally put the pressure on, let's bring her on. Ilene, how you doing today?
I'm going to live up to the hype now. So here we go.
Here we go. Yeah, I had to set you up, right? So, well, we got to know you a little bit before we got started here, but we need to introduce you to the audience as well. So give us a little bit about your background and how you ended up doing what you're doing today.
Well, I was born on a snowy day. No, I'm joking. I was. But
on a snowy day or born?
December, Sag.
Okay.
So, I grew up in a hysterical home. What does that mean? My parents were first generation America. My father was always angry and working. My mother was always, she had 4 girls. She was always 4 children, 2 years apart, always overwhelmed. My sisters were clueless. So they always needed help with everything. And I just kind of always figured things out, and my sisters would say I was bossy. And they would go complain to my parents because I wanted to build one big Barbie house and not all have individual things. And I found the best things. And I used the most creative things from my father's work bunch, or my mother was a teacher from her, her goodie treasure hunt. And they were jealous. So I kind of grew up being I'm the black sheep. And now I say that's a bad thing. It is. So I grew up in that kind of house, and there was definitely some trauma there and definitely a lack of abundance. And I very quickly found community, right? Joined the swim team, being the Girl Scouts, volunteer at the temple. And there was always food at those places, which I love. And
real priorities come out.
I was the priority, always happy. And that's kind of, what my background was. So I was always one of those people who just knew I had to get through it. You just do it and you try to have a good time while you're doing it, because what's the alternative, right? To be miserable while you're shoveling the snow? Who gets mad? The snow? I don't think so.
This is actually, it's a little bit of a twist on what we all regularly get for guests, because most guests have gone through some sort of severe crash and burn, come out the other side, learn stuff, and wanted to share it. It sounds to me from your story that you were just so persistent. If there was a crash and burn, you barely noticed.
Well, let me tell you, there were 4 crash and burns.
There were 4 of them. Oh, okay.
Right.
And, I think they're just part of the story because I'm a slow learner. Right. Wow. So, the first crash and burn, I guess, was childhood abuse. So let's just leave that where it is. Right. Oh. Nobody wants to talk about that. The second crash and burn was having a very rare cancer, at 39 that, believe it or not, only 20 till this day, only 20 women of childbearing age get it in America a year, and only 2 survive.
Wow.
So that's where maybe I was special, but I did not learn the lesson then. The next lesson was my nasty divorce, where my husband gambled away every saving and every cent we had. Ooh. And I found out because I came home from chemotherapy early and got the mail, right? That was,
oh my goodness,
delightful. So that was crash and burn number 2, the divorce, and really being broke and the lying, the divorce we've all been through, or not we've all been through, for those of you that haven't, God bless you. And
yeah, for those of us who have been through it, though, we know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then the fourth one which I finally, then there was the surgical infection from a surgery where I really died. So that was another, medical issue. That one got me out of New York City, moved me up to the Berkshires, and kind of changed how I was doing my life. But the real thing that led to that was when I was fired on the front of the New York Times, the New York Post, and everything else because my boss was embezzling. So I had a very successful career as a top level administrator, helping social services in a nonprofit. And my boss, William Rathfogel, was stealing from the organization. He was guilty. I was not. I mean, I had to go through the process, the lawyers, but I was cleared. But I basically lost my career because all else being equal, who wants someone that's been in a scandal, right? So that was really, talk about the, I believe in God, the devil, the universe, whatever. God taps you on your shoulder, whispers in your ear, throws a brick at your head. I needed the brick twice.
That's something we've talked about. I mean, I call it the 2x4 method, but it's essentially the same idea, right? And that has happened to a lot of people. The thing that gets my attention, though, is the almost devil may care way you say it. I mean, many people will tell their story and you can just feel how much it affected them. You, it's like, yeah, I had this, I had that, this other thing happened. Nah, no big deal. Well, you have to go through it,
I mean, I do write and I do try to get to that emotion, but I just feel like at a certain point, when you live it, right? I like to show it like this. Let me find a clean piece of paper if I can, right? Like this is the trauma, this whole piece of paper, right? Okay. And you live it and you're trying to go through therapy and everything. Oh my God, that's going to fail because that happened and I can't trust myself. And, all I wanted my whole life was like for this, to disappear. And what I found is it did not disappear. But what happened is, see that little circle on that piece of paper? Yep. It became a much smaller part of my story. So this is the trauma. And this is why I'm happy about it.
That's a major skill.
Even though I didn't like it, even though, I still, I lived through 9/11. We didn't even touch that, right? Like even though there are things that, no one should have to go through, it does help me relate to people. That's why I was a good manager, because I really understood that. But also, like, right, what is the alternative? I have seen people, my sisters, I have seen people who are miserable and cranky because of their past. And what does that give you? It really doesn't bring you anything.
But that's a very advanced insight. That's the kind of insight that does change your life for the better. But I think it's fair to say most people don't get that insight. So I give you credit for that one.
Thank you. But, most people then say, she hasn't really been through trauma. Look at the way she talks about it. And I'm like, all right, we're each we're each entitled to our own take in it. But, I mean, listen, I'm a regular podcast guest because I like to go out there and tell my story and sell my wares. And I listen to a lot of the podcasts, and everybody has a sob story. And we know them. We've been through it, our neighbor, our child, So like when you don't have to tell it that way, and you can say, I really do relate to you if you've been sick, if you've been broke, if you've been stuck in the hospital, if you've lost a job. But, that was yesterday. And today, hope springs eternal.
Well, also, I think it's a question of what you learn from it, too, because, I mean, you described very eloquently how you went through a number of these crash and burns. And in your own description, you didn't really learn from it. You were on the 2x4 path rather than the tap on the shoulder path. So you do actually have to learn from it at some point. But when you learn from it, that's where also the other interesting part of the story is, what you actually learned from it.
Yeah. So here it is. You want to hear it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I think I've learned 3 things now, if I can put them into context. One is resourcefulness, meaning that no matter what happens, right? God forbid I lose my legs, I will find a way to deal. That is who I am, right? I hate this expression, and isn't it the way it always goes? The things you hate are the truest in your life, Make lemonade out of lemons, right? Like that is my story. We'll talk about the Ilene pan later, right? How I had the stove that was so broken, and instead I turned it into a new product that I'm launching because I figured I can't be the only one with that problem. resourcefulness is what I've learned. And I don't mean, I mean how to figure something out, how to get what I need, how to use something else. Necessity is the mother of invention. And that is a skill, that I always had. Or has been growing or is really a part of me. So resourcefulness is one of the big lessons, that I can count on myself and I can count on the universe to have my back. Things will line up.
Well, sure, because if you're resourceful, then you're in what they call the vibration of being resourceful. And when you're in the vibration, you're going to get resourcefulness delivered to you. So, yeah.
So that's resourcefulness. The second one is grit. And, we all know grit as stick-to-itness, stick it out, And I say, because so many things happened to me, including good things, right? Like I became a manager of 10,000 people before I managed 4 people. So I didn't even know what I was doing yet. So, even good things, you kind of, like when you're going through cancer at 39 and none of your friends have been through it, and no one really close to you except your grandfather 20 years ago, no one knows how to talk to you. They're all whispering cancer. No one knows what they're calling you, like you realize like you didn't even know what you were going through, but I knew I had to get through it. I knew I had to, whatever it was, do what the doctor said, trust someone, put one foot in the other, pray, put my affairs in order. Whatever it was, it's that grit. And, I love that movie Grit with the girl who loses the arm. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
That was very hardcore because that's what it is. If I have to walk up an icy mountain, I'm going to find a way. And that's grit. Goes with resourcefulness because I might find some, branches I could put on my legs and spike in. But that's grit. It's against all odds, and it's something that comes from within. That wanting to survive, but not just survive, wanting to thrive, wanting to get out the other side.
Yeah,
so
there's a difference. There's a big difference between surviving and thriving.
Yeah, huge, right?
Yeah.
But they rhyme so nicely, so I don't know why.
One leads to the other. I mean, if you can stay in that one track, it will eventually take you to the other track, but they are quite different.
Right. And the third one is perspective. Some people call it optimism. Some people call it something else. I don't know what they call it. But I say perspective because it's not about is the glass half full or empty. It's about the concept of instead of this happened to me, I get to figure out how to deal with this. I get to grow from it. I get to learn. I get to experience something that no human being shouldn't experience. And with that, when I say perspective, one thing that has, I have always done is find a way in. It's very easy to find a way out. That doctor sucks. That wasn't it. It was the hospital's fault. I'm going to sue. This happened, that, right? Find a way out. But you have to find a way in to like forgiving other people for what happened, forgiving yourself, and to working through it. So the perspective of, like where I stand, someone else might be standing tomorrow. And the perspective of like I showed you on my little piece of paper, right? Mm-hmm. It's not this. Maybe it can be just this. And it's my job to figure out how to keep it smaller than it is so the rest of my life can be bigger.
You're touching on some of my favorite themes. Persistence certainly is one of them. Perspective is a huge one. That's probably one of the biggest ones. For me, it was learned from just having so many guests with so many different perspectives on the program and realizing that, well, I love so many of them who came in with similar perspectives to my own. I end up learning more from the ones I disagreed with, which pissed me off, but I learned more from them.
But that's finding a way in.
Yeah. And then finding a way to appreciate it, that's probably the hardest one. Appreciating what you don't like. That one racked my brain for a long time. How do you appreciate something you don't like? Until I finally realized that you don't have to like it in order to appreciate it.
Yeah.
See, I thought you had to somehow like it in order to appreciate it, and you don't.
No. I always say to that, you have to use it. You don't have to like it, but you have to use it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So yeah, so you've hit on a few of my, and also I also add in connection. And the connection that we have with the people who are closest to us, because I think that's really a big part of it. That's where we get a lot of the energy when we don't really have the energy, is through those connections.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's always that graphic, the 7 people you surround yourself with are the people you get their energy and who you become. And boy, I have to change that picture lots of times, but okay.
but you just said what you have to do. Exactly right. You have to change that picture. If your situation is not playing the way you want it to, and you're not being supported by people close to you who really are going to help you in the direction you want to go to, you got to change the people close to you.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do sometimes, but you have to do it.
And that goes back to when you have adversity, you're sick. I mean, even, you're sick, you get fired, your husband renders you broke. Who are the people who show up for you and help you in a way that you can take?
Yeah.
And that is such, when we talk about use those setbacks and why they're learning, because what you expect and what happens are so far apart. And the journey is in looking at who actually showed up and did something useful. I had a very dear friend whose husband died unexpectedly already about 1.5 years ago. And, she's a community icon, and, the phone lines and the Facebook lines and everybody's talking. I made a pot of chicken soup and showed up at her house to put the pot of chicken soup. I'm a Jewish mother. Pot of chicken soup on her door because I knew her family was going to be coming in from out of town. How much pizza can they order in? And, until they make the funeral, everybody delivers it after the funeral, but 2 days before. And, it's not about me, but, at the wake, everybody's like, oh my God, that chicken soup. But like everybody else was talking and I just took an action.
Yeah.
And that does make all the difference. One of my favorite stories, I've told it a few times here on the program, but it involves a couple of famous individuals, the famous people being Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, who were arch rivals in the NBA. I mean, and not just in the NBA, they were arch rivals in college. They were arch rivals in practically everything, and constantly competing with, and constantly being compared to each other, and just wanting to do everything they could to basically tear the other guy's head off every time they got together, until Magic Johnson got diagnosed with HIV. And then most of his friends in the NBA avoided him, but he got a phone call from Larry Bird to find out if he was okay. And that just that basically cemented a friendship that has lasted to this day.
Right. And, we see that a lot on, in business and rivals, right? Like it's your rivals that drive you, right? What's that old, line from The Art of War? Keep your your friends close and your enemies closer. Yeah. Because they really do shape us in ways that we don't expect. And they do care because we help make each other better.
It's absolutely true. It's counterintuitive on the surface, but when you start experiencing it, like I said before, it'll piss you off at times. But that's where you learn the most.
I have a theory about that when you get pissed off.
What's that?
That it's a mirror.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah, sure.
Right, Anne-Marie? I mean, seriously, how often have we encountered that mirror, right?
Yeah. We hate it. And then you realize, oh my God, that's me.
It's insane. Yeah. But that mirror, I actually had somebody say to me recently that I held up a harsh mirror. And what I didn't get a chance to, but what I wanted to say to the person was, mirrors are just reflective devices. If you see anything harsh in the mirror, that's not the mirror. That's the person looking in the mirror.
Right back at you. Yeah. Literally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is hard. I mean, when we're looking in the mirror and we see something harsh, that's hard to face sometimes.
And that goes with my other favorite cliche.
What's that?
When you have one finger pointing at you, three back at me, you know that one. But they're like the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. And well, it's particularly appropriate these days because right now we live in a culture of blame. I mean, it's just rampant. And not just here in the US. I mean, you're experiencing it in the UK, right, Anne-Marie?
Yeah, for sure. It's certainly changed that nobody wants any accountability anymore. Everybody just wants to give that responsibility to somebody else.
It's so much easier. Blame somebody else. I don't have to. If I don't point the finger at myself, then I don't have to do anything, right?
Yeah. Is it easier though?
And not to get political, but I think ChatGPT and all these AIs actually help people not take responsibility, because like, what did I do? How do I write it? I'm saying, try it in ChatGPT. Well, it's not really your fault. They don't want to get anybody upset. So I don't know.
I'll throw an alternative viewpoint at you because I'm actually an advocate of AI, and I do.
Oh, I'm a big advocate.
I have a major AI project I'm working on too. But the way I look at it is AI is a mirror. So what are you seeing in the mirror?
Right. I'm sorry. So let me just say that I'm a huge AI fan. I mean, I still have an original Alexa, right? So anything, but I think I'm going to get it in a museum. This one I'm not throwing out. I'm holding on to posterity. But I think what happens in AI is this whole concept of prompt engineering. And people, like you said, it's a mirror. So if I don't want to take blame, I'm going to say to ChatGPT, look at what this person did. How do I tell them that? And it's not going to give you responsibility. So that's what I mean by ChatGPT gives them 5 reasons now why they're not to blame. But it's how they're asking the question, because it's their mirror, right?
Yes.
Versus you ask the question, what was my fault? What was theirs? And then what do I need to clean this up? No one's asking that,
Well, some people are, which
Yes,
is the part that's encouraging to me.
Yeah,
Because
good.
I think that shows where the real future of AI is in helping people to
Couldn't
do
agree
that
more.
stuff.
I'm a very big fan, and a big fan of, like you just said, it's not only a mirror. The more you use it, the more it knows you,
Oh yeah.
which is both scary, but also the more honest it is with you.
One of the most fascinating things that I've learned, because I'm working on some pretty in-depth projects with AI, but one of the most fascinating thing I've learned is just how precise AI is regarding the English language, which is, by the way, it's a major accomplishment for AI to do that at all, because English is the most multi-valued language in the entire planet. And yet they find a way to be precise with it. Now, here's the tricky part. The way AI uses a word is not necessarily the way you would. And that's the hard part to learn.
Yeah. It's funny because I do, I always did it with a dictionary, but now with the phone, I mean, I am constantly looking up words because even though I think I know what they mean, I want to be more precise and I want to understand it. So I love that.
That precision is only going to serve you too, because not only is it going to help you with AI, but it's also going to help you with the rest of your life. That's one of the beautiful things about being precise is it pays back in ways that you can't even predict in advance.
Yeah. And going back to like the really laughter and funny of it is when you actually explore what is the meaning of this word, you also start to see it differently because you think about how you saw it and what you thought it meant. And then that becomes funny, or that becomes, oh, I thought humble was this, but this is really humble. Oh my goodness. How am I going to bridge this gap? And then you can make jokes at yourself. And that's when you really learn, I think.
Yeah. Well, going back to the idea that we talked about earlier of gaining insights from people that we disagree with. That is the way it's done, by learning about, understanding what they're saying in a precise way. That's how you gain the new perspective. That perspective becomes clear in a way that it didn't.
If you're open. So like you're saying, you're open, but you have to be open. You have to be
well, more than open, you're also paying attention to literally what that other perspective is saying.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, you have to, yes. You have to disregard everything you think you know, everything you feel about this person, everything, that conventional wisdom has taught you, and make, believe like you're hearing it for the first time and actually hear it for the first time.
Which we know nothing about, right, Anne-Marie? I mean, we never do that.
No, I love it when I get a trigger and I'm like, oh, what's that about? And then I go and investigate it in a journal. It feels great.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the key. You go and investigate it. You take the next step.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So you hinted to us earlier that you had come up with this product that came out of this disastrous kitchen situation. Tell us what that's all about.
So I had one of these very old stoves. I don't know what it's like in the UK, but it was like circa, 1910, the Bronx, right? It's like a crooked stove, my grandmother's kitchen that no matter how many, shims or bricks you put under, the stove is actually falling into itself, right? Like white enamel. Those round, what do they call them? Burners are like crooked, holding up off the stove. And that's the house I'm living in. And it's like sinking. And I'm going to cook. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to burn this again. And my frying pan's getting ruined. And I don't know what heat to put it on. And then after complaining and thinking, I'm like, wait, I am a problem solver. I am a manager. I got this. So I started using it to my advantage. I took the thick chicken cutlets or the thick pieces of eggplant and put them on the part closest to the stove. And I took the thin pieces and put them away. So they were in the same pan, cooking at 2 different temperatures and being ready together, which meant I could do a load of laundry. I could take a phone call. I could text somebody. I didn't have to tend, the pan because they weren't burning one side while the other was undercooking.
Okay.
So my omelet, my daughter likes hers runny. I like mine hard. I didn't have to break it in half, use 2 pans, the whole deal. And I am like cooking in this new way. And I'm like a superstar in the kitchen. And then what do you think happened? I got a new stove. and it was plum. And I hated it, even though I thought I was going to love it, right? I decided I had to recreate this condition of the crooked stove. And so I took a frying pan, an expensive one, I may add, you know, Teflon, really strong. And I put it like over very high heat outside. And I tried to like torque it or bend it, so half of it was off the heat, but it didn't work. So I then became on a mission to create what they call an MVP, not a Larry Bird.
Minimally viable product.
Yep, minimal viable product. And, you know, I had a lot of crash and burns, a heavy one, and this one. And finally, I created a sloped frying pan that sits a little off the heat. And the way the metallurgy works, heats up in different places because of the design and the way that I raise it, and cooks at 3 different temperatures in the same pan on your stove.
That's really wild.
Well, I'm just thinking about dishes I can use it on now.
Oh, yeah, you can. I'm doing a Kickstarter, so I'm just launching on the 21st. You can actually, and the funny thing is, so years, like we talked about being on the path in the universe. So for years, you know, I've been, you know, managing annoying people, leadership, values, this. All of a sudden, I create this pan, and I do speak to entrepreneurs about how to start businesses and how to monetize them. So I've been in that world about economic development, financial independence. That's really, you know, as a social worker, what I focused on, helping people to become financially independent. So all of a sudden, then I create this pan, and I call it the Ilene pan. Get it? But ILEAN.
That's brilliant.
So it's funny, and then
it just leans right into it.
The logo of me with my little, you know, pants and dress cooking in it, because, you know, I'm a Jewish Italian mother, and there you get it. So so that's it. And so, you know, but really interesting lessons, you know, like you were talking about. You know, entrepreneurship, as you know, is different than just starting a business. It's about risk. It's about something that hasn't been done before. It's about, you know, a new model. So there's no like ready-made place to go. There are people that say they're going to help you, but the twists and turns of figuring things out and testing, which I'm sure you're finding in your AI product, is that, you know, talk about what we were talking about, right? Grit, you know, perspective and resourcefulness are key, or I don't think I would have launched. About a year ago, believe it or not, I went on a reality TV show. It hasn't aired yet. It's called The Blocks. I don't know if you know it. Wes Bergman. Wes is he's the new voice of American Express. American Express has all these upscale hotels. If you've seen it, you know, showing that's Wes. He got his notoriety from the challenge. He won many times or something. So he's a reality. He's been on The Traders. Wes started his own show about building a great business. And I'm on season 21, actually. Wow. And he's only released like season, I think, 18 or 19. So I have a few seasons out. So I went on this reality show. So before I went on the show, I filed a provisional patent because I wanted to protect myself when I was introducing on the show. And that was February 3rd of last year. And just this morning, I filed my full utility patent. It took me a year to actually test it, find it, figure it out, make the changes. And apparently, I have to Google the number. A lot of people that file a provisional don't actually end up filing a patent. They they abandon the idea. So I'm feeling very accomplished today.
Very good. Congratulations. Yeah, that's accomplishment right there, because it's easy to give up on something like that, especially on an entrepreneurial project, for the very reasons that you described. Because, I mean, you face all these twists and turns that there's no manual anywhere. You can't go out there and say, let's see, who else has actually created something like this, and they can tell me how to fix this particular situation that came up today. I mean, you just can't find that.
And most people kind of tell you why it won't work, not why it won't.
They're very good at that. Yeah.
Very good at that. They must go, And then the other part of it is, and then the scary part for me, believe it or not, even though I've been a speaker and I've been out there, is actually going on TikTok, you know, competing with the, you know, these famous grandmas and the 30-somethings that are PhDs and have something to say and have traveled the world. That's my sister-in-law. She's fantastic, but still, you know, I'm competing with these, you know, these women that are incredible, and men, but is going out there and putting it out there and saying, I've created this, it solves the problem for me. Will other people like it? I love, Anne Marie, that you said, you know, oh my God, I could use that. I get it. So
I was just thinking like doing egg fried rice. You've got your rice over here, cook your egg, then mix it.
That is one of the key things, egg fried rice, the vegetables and the rice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think you already have a customer there, Eileen. You're off to a good start.
Gave you the website. Kickstarter. The Kickstarter is going to launch on the 21st.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm going to do that. For people that don't know what a Kickstarter is, it's a crowdsourcing platform, but people introduce inventions and are asking you, is it the kind of thing you would do? And would you think of backing it? So you're in on an early stage invention for, somewhere, between $10 and $1,000, you can get in on the ground floor of an invention and get a product or be part of it and really help a small inventor, because, there's not a lot of funding for, especially small product-based inventors. We really have to go it on our own.
I'm just wondering if it'd help people with mobility issues with their wrists and their hands as well. I just think there's a lot of things you could.
You are very insightful, because when I talked about the meteorology, which I can't spell or say, that was one of the things. The first version of the pan was so heavy. And I'm like, I can't lift it. And then also, because it has a slope, I have a left and a right-handed frying pan. Who has that? I mean,
I love it.
So exactly, the ergonomics or whatever that word is, and the mobility, and one of the things it does, and it's not in my research, this wasn't the brand claim that got things, but I find it fascinating. And if you look at my demo videos, when you cook something with fat in it, it slopes down to the bottom. So your bacon, your beef, your whatever isn't cooking in the fat. The fat is draining at the bottom and it's actually getting seared. And then because of the lightness of the handle, it just pours right out. No, like octopus arms, I call it, or, you have to put the spoon and try, and then you're losing half your chopped meat, right?
And you got your lid on and you're trying to turn it around and it's all falling out. Yeah, I'm with you.
And you should see the demo. It's like because it's already tilted and balanced in a certain way that aids that. So that was kind of a, what do they call it, a byproduct.
I just realized there's a lot of different plays on words and puns and so forth you can use with this.
Yeah, please give me some.
Well, I mean, I'm half hesitating to put this out, but I'll put it on anyway, just in case it's useful to you, because it's one of those ideas that you could either decide, no, I really don't want to go that way, or you could embrace and say, yeah, I'm going to go that way. But you could say it was put out by somebody who's unbalanced, because it's an unbalanced pan.
I'm totally going that way. I was unbalanced to begin with. Now my frying pan agrees.
I mean, that's a talking point right there. That'll get you out to 15 shows all by itself.
I love it. That is great. It took me a long time to come up with elevated cooking, because part of the pan is elevated and you're elevating your game. But I love that, unbalanced.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's the kind of quasi pain point that people will love, because we like pointing at stuff that's painful. I mean, that's just part of who we are as human beings.
Yeah, and that's the the whole thing about your daily dose of laughter. If we think about the best comedians in the world, the things that are the most true and the most deepest secrets are what we can laugh at the best. Right? When we see them.
Yeah, and that is in fact the challenge that any comedian has, is to find a way to find something that is painful and redirect our attention away from the pain into the humor of it.
Yep. Yeah. And, I think a lot about, why I always went to the humor instead of the pain, right? You said, you rattled off your list of trauma like it wasn't a thing. But I think that, the humor is where the lessons learn. It's when you're finally learning the lessons that you can see them that way, that you can actually understand, why is this happening to me again? Or, all right, universe, I got it. I got to pay attention. It's those moments are really when you stop feeling put upon and angry and, having a pity party, and you start to say, okay, I am here to learn something. Bring it on, It's like in your power.
And you nailed it perfectly, I would say. You described the way you described it was essentially that, okay, the universe hands this to me. How I'm going to handle it, I'm going to laugh at it. And that is the first step. That's probably the very first step in every case. I hesitate to say in every case because I don't like to be absolute about stuff because there's always exceptions. But right now, I can't think of an exception. I think in almost every case, you have to go through the humor stage first in order to get to the appreciation stage.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about humor, right? It really hooks into emotion. Some people really are comfortable digging into the pain and the chaos and the, that kind of thing. But the humor in a certain way hooks in at that same deep level, right? When you can get a belly laugh, when you can actually uncontrollably be gasping for air, you're like, wait, there is something here. And that's when you really feel.
This is true. It's exactly true. I love it.
Very true.
Now, you're also a speaker and a coach. Tell us a little bit about that side of who Ilene is.
So that grew out of being fired.
Okay. Good example of what we talk about right there.
What?
That's a perfect example of you just made a joke out of the main situation.
I got a lot of jobs right after being fired. So even though my boss was guilty and crooked and people were mad, they knew I was not. I got a lot of work, but all of a sudden I went from being kind of the number 2 to I'm working for people. And, if you ever, I have a bio out there that said something, Ilene lives with her huge golden doodle in Western Mass, who, like most people, occasionally ignores her advice. And I found as a consultant, most people occasionally ignored my advice, even though they knew better, even though they agreed, and even though they were paying me a lot of money. And it just was frustrating, to do that. So I, at one point, just scribbled down some notes because after meeting with certain people and saying the same thing again, like the team meeting isn't going well because it's the faces you're making, it's the tone you're setting, it's the things you're doing, wrote it down. This turned into this book, Managing Annoying People. And then that became kind of the premise of my coaching. I'm very blunt, I'm very straightforward, and I'm the kind of coach that no one talks about because you've already had, the happy people in, and the people that tell you what color you are, and the people that tell you what acronyms you are, and you've already had the accountants in and the auditors, but no one has been able to find like that string, that piece that when you pull it, it's like a bow from the $1.25, no more dollar store, the $1.25 store, it's flat. And when you pull it, it blossoms. And that is a skill that, I think I was born with, even though my family tried to tamp it out of me by telling me I was a bully, that I can somehow see the pieces. And that's the kind of coaching I do. I work with usually CEOs who run pretty, large organizations, multi-million, usually $150 million range, sometimes a little smaller, but all the pieces are in place, but they just can't get them gelled and they can't figure out why. So I come in and do an audit and really, figure out how to align them. You use the word alignment too in laughter, but my consulting website is called Aligned Workplace. How do you line up your mission, values, actions, ideas? How do you actually line them up to get your ducks in a row to grow and make money? So that's what I do in consulting. So, it always starts with the CEO. I always end up working with the whole team. And, I like really short engagements. If I can't help them within 6 to 8 weeks, I can tell if they're not listening, right? And I really like to go in there and I can find just those threads, whatever they are, and help them to get back on track. And usually they're under the gun because they're losing a contract, or if they are a startup, their investors are they're not hitting their KPIs, key performance indicators, or their goals. So they're under the gun. So it's usually a crisis situation. So I'm kind of a crisis manager. And believe it or not, because I'm kind of out there and funny, I really cut my teeth on numbers. My first job was in something in government called an Office of Management and Budget. So I am extremely quantitative, and people don't expect that. So I can take almost any situation happening and explain it to you in monetary terms, what it's costing you, what's happening, where your money's going, and how it's misdirected. So that's what I do.
I think it's fascinating. I mean, you took a concept, the Ariadne's thread is fairly famous historically. You turned it into Eileen's thread, but I also get the feeling that you're really turning it into the thread of fill in the blank, whatever the name of the CEO is. It's their thread. You're teaching them how to find their thread.
Yes, I'm really teaching them how to find their thread. And, especially post-COVID, I mean, I'm really winding down from that business, but, the old trick in consulting, right? You say no and you give them a number, they won't pay. And if they pay, you go. You don't get the job. But everybody that didn't know that, learn quick. But,
yeah.
But, it's really, and because of that, it really is kind of crisis coaching and quick coaching. And I can tell, but in this era where we talk about mental health and authenticity, helping people to understand what their authentic thing is and how to bring that to the workplace without ruffling feathers and out compromising too much of their personal self is really a skill that needs to be learned, I think.
I agree with you. I think there's another skill too that I would tack onto that one. I mean, I've encountered it through the podcast, but I've also encountered it through my own private and business life. And that is the skill of dealing with people who have tremendous skill on their side, but there's also a gap. And it's the skill of helping them to change their attention away from the thing that they're very good at and looking at the gap. That's really what a good coach is able to do.
You know what I call that?
What?
They're BS. They're blind spots.
They're blind spots. Yeah.
Say something else. And I also talk to the CEOs about those are the annoying superstars. Right? They're good at what they do. They produce, but that blind spot, whether it's leadership, whether it's integration, whether it's whatever it is, that really is what keeps them from progressing or making them valuable to the company. So, on one hand, they are super uber producers. That's why I call them annoying superstars. But it's annoying because they can't get that they need to be better rounded, or this is part of their job, or just because you do this well doesn't forgive you for not doing that.
In fact, when you were talking about how it can get frustrating when you give people some good advice and they don't listen to it, that was the thing that frustrated me. I was doing marketing for some time and encountering customers who I was providing assistance marketing advice, and encountering customers who would do exactly that. They had their own thing going. They had some things that they were doing very well. They had their blind spot. And when I would give them advice about their blind spot, they wouldn't take the advice. And what I didn't know at the time, I don't think I ever actually learned it while I was doing the marketing, but I never took it to the stage that you described where you said, you put out a price that they'll never pay. And if they pay it, then you go do the work. If I had done that, they probably would have listened a little bit longer just because they had so much money on the table. Yes. But without that, they weren't going to listen.
Well, there's a really good skill that I learned in social work school for those type of people that won't listen. It's called reflective listening. Have you ever heard of it?
I don't know that one.
I'm sure you've used it. You've seen it in action. And they say, well, I do this. And you say, so you repeat right back what they said.
Okay, yeah.
And they say, that's not what I said. And you say, you just said that. And they say, I didn't. And then you go on and then you say, so what you're saying is that part of the business doesn't pay any attention. I never said that. You just said that. And in today's age with the phone and stuff, you could say, you know what? We've been having this back and forth. Let's take 10 minutes of our conversation. So when you say, I never said that, I'm going to show you said that. So but reflective listening, people say, I would never say that. I'm like, you just said that. Maybe you said it in nicer words. Maybe you veiled it a little, but that's what you said. So that reflective.
And the funny thing is, I mean, what you're describing, I know is active listening. That was the term from 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And with active or reflective listening, the thing that always fascinated me is you don't even have to change the wording. You can throw their exact wording back at them and they'll still deny that they say it.
Exactly. But that's where the phone and the video come in. Yeah, I mean, with consent. Let's be honest, people. But yeah, and reflective listening, I mean, active listening is also much more focused in my, from my knowledge on not waiting for your own response, but being engaged in what they're saying. Whereas reflective listening, you know what I mean? Like you're really trying to be in the conversation and yes, hearing what they're saying, but this reflective listening is a very short-term tool. Active listening, you should be doing all the time, right? You don't want to always be paraphrasing back to them as you are in reflective listening. So that's what I would say the difference is that active
I always treat active listening as the way you describe.
So you're always just parroting conversations?
What's that?
What do you mean? No, you're just
But it's crazy to see if they get confused by their own words.
Oh yeah.
How are their teams taking it? And no wonder things are broken.
You're a natural. That's what I tell them. If you don't know what you're saying and you're telling me you know, and you wonder why you're having meetings after the meetings, why your team isn't acting, and why you have a bad retention rate and no growth. Get a story
The other thing that used to frustrate me, because of course when you're teaching marketing, you're also having to help them produce results quickly that they can see on their bottom line. And if they're not completely following what you're doing, you're not getting the bottom line. So that's where it gets really, really challenging. But one of the things that would frustrate me the most is when they wanted to do something that you knew was a bad idea, and trying to talk them out of it was almost impossible.
Yeah. I've been blessed that way, because that's where my ability to financially model and show them the scenarios, this is your risk factor. This is what you're saying. If you're wrong, this is what you stand to lose, is very powerful.
Yeah, I used to do the situations I ran into where I was trying to do this were with people who were really trying to market something they had no business trying to market.
They
didn't actually have an active product that was going to work. So they were trying to create an audience that wasn't there.
Yeah.
And it's possible to do that, but you got to have a big budget to do that. And they didn't have a big budget to do that.
Well, and in Entrepreneurship 101, we call that you have a great solution, but you haven't identified the problem.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So otherwise you're chasing it. So like with me, the problem is,
well they'll tell you they'll tell you that the problem is, the problem is I just can't figure out how to make this work.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Market validation. Who is it a problem for? Right. But that's funny. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because Amory, I don't know about you. You look so young, but when I went to school, marketing was the bullshit degree, right? And now it's like running the world, right? Really missed out on that one.
Yeah,
crazy how things change.
It's scary how marketing, once the internet came along, that really just shifted everyone's understanding of what marketing was. And the old time marketers, some of them actually embraced it, but others, they got lost in what happened.
I'm not sure I even trust marketing anymore.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Oh, go.
Well, I was just going to say it's for good reason, because so much of what gets promoted as marketing is really not marketing. It's
back to our favorite tool, ChatGPT, you also have to put your settings to 100% honesty and have backup proof, right?
Oh, God forbid.
But I was going to say, what I love about, what I was reading up about you guys and listening to some, I love that LOA, right, can stand for attraction too. And that is a really great concept that I really try to strive by. Attraction, not promotion. So when someone's really hard selling me, that's promotion. When someone's telling me and speaking passionately, I might not agree with them, but at least they're being genuine and they're telling me how they use it. That's where I'm trying to come from the frying pan, right? Not tell you why you need it, tell you what it did for me and why I need it.
Exactly. Yeah. Because what you're describing is the difference between creating a need and discovering and filling a need.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a finer point on that, right? We talk about like products as, are they vitamins or are they a prescription drug, right? Is it a Tylenol? I need it, I have a headache. Or, oh, it's nice, I'll take a vitamin D and hopefully I won't get COVID, like that. So like my product is really a vitamin. You don't need this frying pan, but you do need it. No, you don't need the frying pan. But so it's really a vitamin. It's something that enhances your life, makes it easy and preventative. So you have to just be, like you said before, they were selling something they didn't even know what they were doing. There's a need for it. You have to be really honest. This product isn't for everyone. If you have your
niche product.
Yeah, if you have your which is why I'm trying to keep the price low, which is the problem with the tariffs, the supply chain, the entrepreneurship, and where to get it created and the material. If you have your, I said $4,000, matching, I don't know what you have, dishes, right? Pots, pans, you're not going to be interested in my frying pan. I am not even trying to market you.
Right.
But if you are fresh,
if you're that person, you also don't have burners that are on level. I mean, let's be honest. One goes with the other.
Yeah, exactly. And you're probably not cooking. The maid is, right?
Probably. Yeah.
You're ordering out. So
she'll want it for a red fried rice.
Right. Right. So my audience is like basically my daughter who's 30 and her cohort who, they've been ordering Uber Eats for like their whole lives because they can. And now they're trying to save for IVF or babies or houses and they're all of a sudden, oh my God, my entire, discretionary income is going to delivering Uber Eats. Maybe I should learn to cook. So if I can figure out how to get the frying pan at the price of, $60 one night ordering in for 2 people. Let me try this once and see if I can save money. So that's kind of my target.
Yeah. And well, New York City, you're going to be able to do that, I think.
Yeah, any city, I'm hoping.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It's any city. I mean, New York is what you know. That's why I
yeah, that is what I know. Yeah. And yet now I live in the Berkshires where we're all nice and gray. So in this population, it's people like me that maybe were married, live alone, cooking for one, and don't want to use 10 frying pans to make a meal for one. So that's the other end of my spectrum.
Yeah, I'm 3 years divorced myself, and after a 23-year marriage.
I'm joking. What?
And one of the things that I discovered along the way is getting to know other divorcees, learning what they do to basically avoid having to cook.
Yes.
And what you're describing is kind of a halfway point between, well, I don't want to give up cooking entirely, but I really want to do it the easy way. You're giving people an easy way without having to actually go out and buy a more expensive range.
You exactly hit it. That's for the older population. Exactly. We know how to cook and we know what to do. But who wants to be doing all those dishes for one person, and who wants to be cooking that much amount? I mean, it took us years to learn how to cook for one person,
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we developed a skill. I mean, there's that side too, but nevertheless, it's not a skill we really want to use extensively. I mean, a few of us there are a few people who just love to cook, but the rest of us oh God, all right. Yeah.
I'm always looking for friends with freezers,
Yeah.
Oh, I have a gift. I overmade this.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
But it's been interesting since I've been testing the pan, and I've been using a friend's house who has a beautiful house up here, and the videos you'll see her in her kitchen, and the days that I'm there I cook. And so we were filming for 2 or 3 days, and like the 4th day she called me. She's like, my husband wants to know if you're coming over. He really liked those meals. We wouldn't let him in the kitchen. She's like banishing him and the dog noise. And then she's like, he wants to know if you're coming. He really enjoyed that chicken and rice day.
That's funny.
See, I'm just sat here thinking, like, because I'm vegetarian and the family aren't, so I'm cooking 2 meals quite often, and if you haven't got enough burners, certainly we've got smaller cookers than you guys, so just having that pot at the back for my stuff, and then you're doing all theirs. Useful.
Yeah, and my daughter was vegetarian most of my life, so I always had to cook things that had a vegetarian base and then add the meat in after for the meat. So that's something else, like with this pan, right? Given that you can pull it off the heat without like pulling it off the heat, like you say, on a small stove, it's like, oh, I can take the vegetarian part out, cook for yourself first instead of last. Make yours first and then add in the chicken or the veggies, or if it's a, chili or whatever, or something after in that pan, because yours is already cooked. And you can put the stuff that you don't want overcooked on the higher end so it doesn't recook and get burnt.
Just so clever.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I love cooking. I am one of those people who loves cooking, and I do sort of most of my meals from scratch. So for me, my head's going, this is brilliant.
Yeah. There you go.
You are my audience. I mean, I hope so. Yeah. Check me out on TikTok. I'm trying. I mean, I've been doing it for 14 days, but I've been trying TikTok, and, I'm getting my pan. I'll be announcing the Kickstarter, and I have my website just went up because my patent didn't go through, but is filed. So I'm ready to put those pictures out there.
Well, we should actually tell people what the website is so they can go find it.
All right. I like that idea. I should tell. So it's Ilene, but I lean like ILEAN, like I lean into cooking, or I lean into my pan, or I lean into my meal. ILEAN-pan, Ilene Pan. And .com. I just let the .shop go. I was like, that is a scam. I do not need that. Sorry, GoDaddy.
I can tell you quite honestly, one is all you need. You don't, I mean, I know lots of people who buy multiple domains. You need one. That's it.
That was the help the consultants gave me. Pick up, this is going to be big, buy every domain. And I'm like,
No,
it's
no,
a little
no.
better if I spend the money on the R&D, the fabricator,
Yeah, that's a good
and
idea.
the
Yeah.
guys that are going to help. I mean, I did need some help with the patent. I mean, the application.
Yeah. Oh, sure. You want professional help for that.
Yeah, and it's like navigating the USTPO website. Oh my God, so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
I presume also that, like most people who are offering a product like this, you enjoy hearing from people. TikTok's going to be a great place for you. I think you're on the right place.
Everyone says that. Can you tell the algorithm that, please?
Well, all you have to do is just keep putting your videos out. That's really the trick, because you'll develop a followership. That they're very good at delivering new followers to you. So you just keep putting the videos out, just, do everything with your pan that you can think of to do,
Yeah, that's what I have to start doing. I've been doing words and some showing. Now I got to do the, here's the cooking, here's the fat training, here's the,
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, make a meal. Make every time you make a meal, have a video of yourself making the meal. Show people what you're doing.
That's what I have to start doing. I did it the other night with beef bacon.
Beef bacon, okay.
Yeah. I wanted to make my cardiologist happy. I don't think it worked.
Probably not. No, that was not your best play.
I was like, it's only beef bacon.
Well, I see a lot of videos of people making other people's recipes, and I think that'd be a great one for you to do in your one pan. So you get other people and watching what they do, and then you can show how to do that in one pan.
That is exactly right. And pick the people with the biggest followings. I love that.
That's excellent. Yeah.
That's excellent advice.
That
yeah.
Maybe I do believe in marketing.
Or maybe you're natural.
She is a natural because she's not trying to do marketing. She's just thinking in terms of what would she respond to?
What would I use it for? What would I do? Yeah.
And that's really
attraction.
Mm.
And that's what I'm trying to do, right? Like, here's how I made this chicken and veggies. Here's why I created it. Here's what it does for me, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, as so often happens, this is an example of a show that we enjoy because we flew through the hour, and
really has.
that we flew through the hour, but this has been good. We do have a couple things we'd like to wrap up the show with. And first and foremost, I'd like to go to Anne Marie, because first of all, she was a listener for a long time. Now she's a co-host and has been for quite a few years now, but she has the listener perspective. So Anne Marie, from the listener's perspective, especially with today's show, what's your take? How do you summarize it?
Go buy this pan. It looks amazing first. But I think for me, I just love your attitude and your resilience. And I think it's, I've written a sentence, and excuse the language, but I put, it's finding the sunshine in the shitstorm. It's literally perspective, and it's, changing that outlook. You had a really awful stove that wasn't helpful. It was falling apart, but look what that gave you, and look for the gift in the situation that isn't feeling like a gift.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I would go a step further and point out that not only did you present that message, but you did it from the perspective that you learned from those previous times where you didn't pay attention to the 2x4. You learned from the 2x4. You applied what you learned. That to me is the biggest takeaway, and it's wonderful. It's like the best example you could provide to other people who are going through their own shit shows at the moment.
Yeah,
learning to do exactly that.
Thank you. Yeah. Slow learners, follow me.
Yeah. Well, that also leads to the other thing that I like to do to finish up a show, because I notice now that we're in this new age of marketing on the 21st century internet, completely different from the 20th century non-internet where you went to your local bookstore. I mean, it's quite different now, and so we do things we like. We go on to podcasts. We're writing books, we're creating courses, we're doing blogging and social media and TikToks and everything else. And in the process, we are sharing our stories and our information with people, in many cases, we've never met, never seen, never will meet. And I noticed we're also helping them without getting credit for it. And I thought to myself, we used to get credit for all that stuff because we were in much smaller circles. We don't get credit for a lot of it anymore. So I like to say, Ilene, on behalf of those people you've never met and never seen, never will meet, never will see, you've been helping in all these different ways that you didn't even know about. On their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference in this world.
Definitely.
Oh, that's beautiful. I needed to hear that today. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to provide the service, because I think it is important. There are so many of us who are givers in the world, and we're doing everything we can to help people. I think we need to take credit for that.
Mm.
And right back at you too with bringing on people who have this attitude and sharing that. Because sometimes it's, to use Anne Marie's words, it's hard to find, the ray of sunshine in the shit show.
This is
So
true.
you really seek out those people. So kudos to you too.
And we have a damn good time doing it
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, it's certainly sort of, I love it always changed my perspective. Every week there's something that just, it's like, oh yeah, I really like that. And you just keep learning.
Isn't
keep
it amazing?
growing.
I mean, I always talk about how this show, the reason I keep doing it is because it gives me energy. And
Yeah.
it's a never-ending supply of energy.
For sure.
That's the equation, right? That's the simple math. If it energizes you, if it drives you, you're on the path.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. So thank you for joining us, Ilene. Best of luck with the Ilene Pan. Looking forward to seeing how that's going to take off. That's going to be cool. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.